Welcome to Your Dog's Not Broken and Neither Are You.
The podcast where we stop trying to fix dogs and start actually understanding them. We're two dog nerds. I'm Kim.
And I'm Justine, and between us, we've spent decades untangling the messy, fascinating, and sometimes crazy world of dogs and the humans who love them.
This is not a how to make your dog perfect kind of show. No 5 easy steps or quick fix nonsense.
Nope, we're here to unpack why dogs do what they do, how you can get the most out of your time together, and why the stuff that makes you roll your eyes and pull your hair out is usually the most interesting part.
We'll answer your real life dog stories, explore the science and quirks behind their behavior, and laugh a lot, sometimes at our own expense.
So grab a coffee or a snack for your dog so that you can keep them busy while you listen.
Okay, let's do this.
So, hello and welcome to our very first episode of Your Dog's Not Broken, the podcast. And we thought we would share a little bit about us so that you know who you're listening to. I'm Justine Shermans, and I have been a professional dog trainer for the last 20 years. And before that, I was a TV producer, actually. I worked for Nickelodeon, the kids channel, and MTV. And I lived in the States just outside of New York for 25 years. And I've just moved back to the UK to a little beach town, having a great time here in England by the beach. And I share my world with Juice, the Cocker Spaniel. He's a working cocker who's going to be 4 in September. He's a baby. How is he 4? Kim.
Yes, and I am Kim Brophy, and I am an applied ethologist, more on that later, and a career dog behavior consultant and trainer for the last 25 years, helping families just like you with their dogs' behavior problems here in Western North Carolina in the mountains. So, really beautiful place to live. And I share my household with 2 dogs currently, Early, who is a 2-year-old Great Pyrenees, and Primrose, who is a 10-year-old toy poodle mix, but she looks like a Papillon. So that's me.
So we met back in 2018. We were at a conference together that was hosted by the amazing Jen Shryock of Family Paws, and Kim was the keynote speaker. And as soon as I heard her talking, I was like, wow, I have to go and chat with this lady. She's amazing. And in the field of dog training that I worked was really with parents with younger children, helping the families sort of assimilate a new dog into their world. And so it's kind of no frills. People didn't have a lot of time to do fancy pants training. We were just trying to manage and get through creating simple solutions for what sometimes were really hectic environments. And when Kim spoke, I was like, wow, this is the science behind the stuff that I was actually doing. It was unbelievable, right? We both kind of had this very similar approach to living with and working with dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things we really connected on, right? Is this like not really a need to impress anyone with our fancy dog training skills, right? Like to make them obedient. It was really these like practical, hacky, simple approaches to helping people and their dogs live well together in the 21st century. And I think both of us were kind of aware of this growing trend in the pet dog world where dog behavior problems have been getting so much worse in the last few decades, particularly the last decade in pet
Tell them
dogs.
about the study. Tell them about
Yeah,
the study.
this study just came out in November that surveyed like over 40,000 dogs and or dog families, right, about their dog's behavior over the course of 10 years. And it turned out that like 99.1% of these dogs were reported by their families to have one or more moderate to severe behavior problems. So that's
That's
really alarming.
crazy. That's
It's
insane.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
So if you guys are feeling kind of alone, like as many of my clients over the years, I'm sure yours too, Justine, have felt like, oh, it's just me. My dog is so difficult or I'm failing, right? That's why we've named the podcast Your Dog's Not Broken and Neither Are You, is because we tend to feel like, what is wrong with my dog or what is wrong with me? I'm doing all the things that a responsible pet family should be doing. And my dog is still having all these behavior problems and training doesn't seem to be working. And so we're here to kind of pull the curtain back feedback on why training isn't working. We've never had more dog trainers out there. And yet, the vast majority of dogs here in the United States are experiencing some kind of moderate to severe behavior problem, which means we are experiencing those. We're struggling with our dogs. We're not having fun, right? We're not having as much fun as we
No.
should be living with these amazing animals in our lives.
And 99% of dogs can't be broken. There's just no way that
Absolutely.
that's
Nope.
possible.
Right.
So great. We picked the right title for the podcast. Go us. Hooray. Okay. So we have been asking for voice messages and you delivered. We have our very first voice message that we are going to play. We want to know your messy moments or your burning questions, and we will unpack them for you or hopefully shed some light on what's going on in your household. So, you ready? We'll play the
Yes.
very first one.
We adopted a rescue puppy in June. He was said to be a cocker mix. However, it turns out he's mostly a working cocker spaniel. I had never heard of such a breed, but I'm sure you guys have. He's super smart, but he is a lot and has some behaviours that we need to work on. We've been good about getting him on a schedule. He gets lots of exercise and he's graduated from puppy class. But I just think that he needs more stimulation for his breed, like gun dog work, or definitely needs more training. If I could afford it, I'd consider sending him for board and train. What do you think?
I absolutely love this caller because she's already noticing that this dog is a lot. It might be a little bit of a mismatch, her household versus the amount of energy that this puppy has already showed that it's got. And she's thinking of some solutions to try to help the dog do better in the world. So go caller. You didn't leave your name, but thank you so much for the message. And I feel you because I have been in your shoes. I have had a working cocker puppy and they are a lot. And it's not just working cockers. I guess it would be all working breeds are going to look a little bit different to your average pet dog. Caller, we're going to answer your question about board and train and the other kind of enriching things that we can do for this puppy. But first of all, should we just have a little bit of background on working cockers and just working dogs maybe in general?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So, just to kind of let everyone know, it's not all how you raise them, and most dogs weren't bred to be pets.
What? Hang on. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's not just in how you raise them, but that's what
No,
everyone says.
I know. No, it's not. Actually, it's not true for any species, and it's also not true for dogs, right? They've got nature and nurture going on. It's not just one or the other. So, it's
We've
not
said
all
it.
how
We've
you
said it
raise them.
already. The cat's already out of the bag.
I
We had to
know.
get that out early, didn't we?
You might as well pull the
Let's
band-aid
just
off.
say it.
Yeah, just let people know.
Say it.
No, I know because we've been told that, right? Like the pet industry has got all this marketing behind it that like, all dogs are meant to be pets. And this is not to say, guys, that they can't be pets. I'm not saying that. It's that they weren't bred to be pets, and that's why they might struggle in pet conditions. So dogs that are
Okay,
bred to
hang
be
on. Wait,
pets,
wait. We
it'll
have
be
to get
easier.
pet conditions. I just want to bring up before we go any further my
Yeah.
little bell here. This is the bell, in case you haven't noticed it already. Kim is the very, very smart, sciencey one, and sometimes her language
Nerdy.
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 Sometimes the language gets a little complex. So if it does, I'm gonna ding her, and we're going to ask her to slow it down.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so can we explain a little bit why genetics do matter, how
Yeah.
they play a part, and also I would love us to know the relief that we can feel.
Okay, so most dogs were bred for specific jobs. So cockers, for example, right, as part of the gun dog genetic working group, they were bred for this partnership in hunting lowland game birds with people. So out in the field and stream, rocking and rolling, million miles an hour, helping us locate and flush these birds out. And in the case of some breeds, retrieving them and bringing them back to us. But these guys are like more than weekend warriors, really, right? Like they're meant for this athleticism and performance and working so closely with us. And so in our modern lives, when we're actually inside most of the time, our dogs are restricted most of the time to rooms or crates or leashes or fences and not getting a chance to go out and have that purpose to do those things that are in their DNA. It can create a lot of frustration, like it would for any animal. What we're trying to do is to reframe a lot of the problems that our pet dogs are having instead of dog training problems as the natural consequences of what are actually some kind of unnatural conditions here in the 21st century, right?
So it's natural for a dog like a working cocker to want to be out in long grass, moving in a very zigzaggy pattern,
Mhm.
moving fast, nose to the ground. All of these things are natural, but they might look unnatural or frustrating if you're looking for a dog that is going to walk politely by your left hand side as you walk down the street.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with a lot of these natural dog behaviors, right? Is they look great in the right conditions that they were bred and developed for, and you put them in the conditions that are not that. So you take, as you say, that dog that's bred to be doing this zigzagging movement through the tall grass, that quartering behavior. And then you ding. Oh, I'm getting dinged again, right?
Yes,
So,
quartering. Quartering
yes.
is the zigzagging.
Zigzagging movement.
Yes.
Right, exactly. It's just a thorough, combing
Yeah.
the area, make sure you're not missing anything kind of pattern of movement. But oh my gosh, is it annoying when you're trying to walk a dog on a leash and they keep tripping you up and they won't just stay on one side, but it's because for them it's not natural. So again, if we're looking at it like, we're training this dog to heel, right? We just want them to learn this behavior. Why is it so hard? You have to realize it might be really going against the grain of who that dog is. So in the case of this young working cocker from our caller here, I would say, I would wager that's probably part of her frustration is leash stuff and just feeling like this dog is so helpful and has so much working capacity, drive to partner with her, to go out and have these amazing adventures out in nature, hunting through the tall grass. And if there's, too much of this modern 21st century world going on, that dog is probably having a really hard time.
Yeah. And I think that you said it, the need for connection for these dogs. I think it's really important to think about dogs that were essentially bred to work with a human,
Mhm.
especially the working lines of those breeds, is going to have a much higher level of like looking for connection, wanting to be with you all day. What are we doing? Have a very, very well hidden off switch. You can't find it. It's under all the fur. You move your legs
Mm.
underneath your table where you're responding to emails, and your dog is like, yep, what are we doing? I'm up, I'm helping you. That there's no kind of like sleepiness. That was my experience that with Juice, that I actually had to teach him to relax. He really
Yeah.
had a hard time. So we'd have to go out early in the morning. I'd let him run through the long grass. We'd play together. He'd find some, sniffy stuff in the grass. We'd be out for probably 45 minutes or an hour. And then when I came back home, I could ask him to relax under my desk while I was working
Right.
because I knew that his needs had been met, which is essentially what we're saying, right? These dogs, not just this particular breed of dog, but all dogs need their needs met first.
Yeah, and we haven't been taught to do that, right? Or you guys
No.
haven't been taught to do it by the pet industry, which includes us dog trainers and any other
Well,
pet
us too.
professionals.
To
Yeah.
be fair, us too, until very recently, even dog
Yeah.
trainers weren't doing any of this,
No.
right? I mean, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, none of us
Some
were
dog
taught
trainers
to.
still don't.
Exactly. And that's no individual's fault or group's
Nope.
fault. It's just how this has kind of evolved in the narrative about pet dogs. And thinking about like our dogs being captive, I just want to pause and like recognize that I know that that's really difficult for people to hear that like, oh, your dog is a captive animal. My dog is a captive animal. Like, wait a minute, he's living in the lap of luxury. Like he doesn't want for anything. Like I've checked all the awesome pet dog owner boxes of responsibility to make sure I'm doing everything right. And so I just want people to know that's not a judgment to say your dog is captive. It's just the reality of the situation of what's evolved in recent decades. Whereas I grew up in a major city in the US in the 70s and 80s, and the dogs were still loose, and they're not anymore. And we're not suggesting we release the hounds. We're not saying that we can go back, but there's a cost to all of the kind of restrictions and the protections that we have trying to be responsible dog owners, keeping our dogs on leashes and in fences and in the house and not letting them just have that agency to run the neighborhoods like we did. there is a cost for them in that. And just like we might be able to relate to from like the period of COVID, for instance, right? Like we all lost, like you were talking about, that social connection with people, that face-to-face interaction, even the sense of purpose and accomplishing things with coworkers at your job, the feeling that you can just follow your own desire to go for a walk and go exploring, feel the sun on your face, out in public spaces, and not feel like you had to be so careful about social distancing and all this stuff. Like the restrictions really, they had a cost for our quality of life. And so even though they're for everyone's best interest, right, to like keep people safe, and we're trying to keep our dogs safe and be responsible, there's a price for that. Those are withdrawals out of that dog's welfare account. And sometimes our relationship account too, because the dogs might see us as kind of the reason that they're so restricted, right? So we can run into all these kinds of dysfunctional problems where they're frustrated and then we get frustrated. And the challenge has been, we've approached that historically with training. And so we've actually asked for more withdrawals and not looked at it like we have to put more deposits in to make sure that that working cocker, for instance, has the chance to go be a working cocker. We can take him out into places where he can do those natural behaviors. We can work closely with him through things like scent work to make sure that those needs are being met across the board before we ask him to button up.
So you've made me think about this, right? So in COVID, we did have to, completely forgot about this, but we had to do that 6 foot social distancing thing, which felt so awkward. Do you remember? Because we're not really wired to do that at all. But imagine if someone said that being 6 feet apart in space is not the problem. You just need better training. So we're going to send trainers to come and help you work through the issue of being 6 feet apart and, not going out of your house more than once a day for however long you were allowed to go out. That would not relieve us on any level of the craziness that we were going through.
No, it would be so much more frustrating. And actually, immediately, the thought of that makes me resentful of whoever walked in the house trying to train me to get on board with what I was already having a hard time with.
I want to stand close to the person. What are you talking about? I want to say hello. And get this face mask off me as well. We think about that with the equipment that we put on dogs, and we didn't want to wear the face masks. Everybody was hot and uncomfortable. So it's a really good parallel, isn't it? Right. We should get back to the caller. We should get back to, so she asked the specific question about should she be doing gun dog training, and I think that could be a really amazing fit for a dog like that. I mean, I know that spaniels seem to excel in this field. Again, it's something that is very natural to their wiring to do this, and it has become incredibly popular. I couldn't do the actual gun dog training myself with my dog because I'm a vegetarian and I can't. I did actually go and watch when I got him when he was a puppy. I went to watch the guy that I got him from. He was actually a judge, a hunting judge. And I watched him with some of his dogs, training them out in the field, and they were picking pigeons up and throwing them. And I just was like, that's just not going to work for me. But to see the dogs do what they were bred to do was absolutely amazing. So the way that I did it in my house is that I throw things that look a bit like birds. So toys or frisbees or something that kind of simulates that moving in the air, and I can grab it out of the sky. The other thing that I think is helpful, not just for spaniels, but for all dogs, whatever dog you have, young, old, big, small, is scent work. Scent work is fantastic. We are doing that at the moment, scent detection work. And I think it's a great way of, and I'm going to do air quotes, exercising your dog, but allowing them out in space to do what they were originally designed to do. And if you have I'm going to go a bit nerdy now. If you have a spaniel or any dog that has long ears, I think this is fascinating how the form and function thing works together. But the long ears help capture the scent. It kind of creates like a little cave. If imagine their heads down and they got the 2 ears, and then the scent comes back right into their nose so that they can smell it better. Think about bloodhounds or the hounds with the long ears, the basset hounds and the spaniels. And then Kim, there's another piece
and it dusts
too,
up
right?
the scent. Yeah, it dusts up the scent too. Those ears dragging the ground, it dusts it up so that it's fresher. So that's that form and function relationship. Like there's a reason that scent hounds all have long ears, and that a lot of these dogs like spaniels who are doing similar kind of scent work, right, with that nose to the ground kind of work, that they
Yeah.
also have those long ears. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see them a lot at the airports. There's always Springer Spaniels at airports in the UK that are
Mm.
trying to sniff out the drugs and whatever. So, I think they are really good options for this caller. As far as board and train, though, I have a couple of thoughts about board and train, and I don't know if you're going to share the same thoughts as I do. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, with board and trains, I think like it can so depend, right? Because like it can provide some temporary relief to the family if they're really at their wits' end. If it's a good environment for the dog, it can also provide some relief for the dog, some structure, some clarity. A good board and train should have elements that are meeting the dog's needs, not just taking more withdrawals out of their bank account. Like they need to have those kinds of opportunities. So I think as long as you're able to continue all of that good stuff, assuming it's a good program, when you come back into your home environment, I think it could be a really helpful thing. But my concern is a lot of the times in my experience, when the dog goes back into the home environment hasn't changed at all. So the dog's behavior starts adapting back to the home environment and having those behavior problems, quote unquote, kind of come back to the surface because their needs are still not being met.
Exactly. So if you imagine like the what used to happen in my experience and the people that I work with was a really busy family, young children, new puppy, energetic new puppy that had really sharp teeth and was, being a bit of a menace to the kids, and just exasperated parents. They were just tired. One of my good friends, Adrian, she runs a board and train, and she was saying, the dogs are not an issue when they come to my house because they're not, because her house has 2 acres of fenced in land. She's got multiple really good dog friendly dogs that these puppies would play with. And she would do a little bit of training and then they would go back to the family. But the reality is again, as you said, if the family hasn't changed what their life looks like, whether there's stuff all over the house that the puppy's getting into or kids still running around, it doesn't really make the impact, I think, that people are looking for. It might be better to spend your money on renting a secure field, right? Where the
Yeah,
dog can
that's just
actually
what I
run
was gonna
around.
say. Yeah, these sniff spots, if you guys don't know about them already, it's like Airbnb for fenced dog areas, right? And they're private. So you pay your 10 or 20 bucks or whatever for the hour. And most of them are fenced and it tells you whether they are or aren't. And you can go into that space knowing that you are the only person, you and your dog or whoever goes with you and your party are the only people and dogs there. So you don't have to worry about crossing paths with other people and dogs and all the challenges that can come up from regular dog parks. We'll get into that at a later episode, right? But
Hmm.
this is where you get this low-hanging fruit, like nature opportunity for the dog to engage with all of their natural behaviors. It's the opposite of that frustration. These are the deposits in the bank account. So whether it's a working cocker or any other breed of dog, particularly working ones, to get out into nature, they have the opportunity to do all these natural behaviors that they can't do in our pet environments when they're restrictive, indoor, sedentary, etc. It's our responsibility to meet those needs. So if you guys can think about weaving that in, so for this caller, if you did a board and train and they met all those needs and they had a wonderful program and they taught useful skills and the dog came back with more relief and you could continue that when the dog came home, then it could be a really good idea.
Yeah. Or maybe the board and train actually has a program where the dog can go for a couple of hours. So that's kind of like plugged into their daily routine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, whatever it is, we have to look at the dog. We have to see the dog and what they need specifically and look at what they're asking us to deliver as their parents, the ones that are raising them, who are responsible for them. They are depending on us to give them those particular things so that they can show up in the world, as best they can. Like
Yeah.
we do for our kids,
Yeah, no,
we
absolutely. And I think you always say this too, but like, I'll be talking about how our dogs are captive animals, which they are, like practically, and all the animal welfare science and all the stuff that goes with that. But like think of it like your dog is your dependent, like a kid, right? Think of your role as parenting. Justine being our kind of resident expert on all things with kids and dogs, you can really like help us appreciate as we continue to talk about all the topics in the podcast, like what it's really like like for families with kids. And I think so many families can really relate to the idea of like, right, so my kid is dependent on me. I'm controlling their decisions. They don't have the freedom to do whatever the heck they want. And that can create frustration, especially
Yeah.
for a lot of modern kids. But we are still the one that's responsible for meeting their needs in healthy ways and giving them the guidance and skills they need to navigate the world that they're in successfully.
Yeah. It's like taking your kid to a restaurant after them being home all day and expecting them to sit at the table and be perfectly behaved.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. They have to have been out doing something really, really fun. And at the table, they still might need to have some crayons or a little game to play with just to keep them entertained or be connected to their parents. I don't mean like a tablet, by the way. I mean like as something we used to play stacking, sugar packets on top of each other, that kind of something to keep them entertained, because sitting at the table is a very unnatural behavior for a kid, isn't it? Same way that
Yeah.
we want dogs to sit and behave themselves in certain situations where
Yeah.
they're like,
And
no, this is not natural.
it doesn't mean that we can't have those expectations, but that's that whole idea again about we put those deposits in the bank account, then it's okay to take that withdrawal out and see like, okay, now like this is how I need this part of the day to go when we're doing things where you can't just let your hair down, right? It's that give and take. And so that's what we're here to help people figure out, is that balancing point.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a little segment in this podcast that we're going to do every episode, which is a handy hack. It's a very short hack, something very simple that you can do to change your world. And today's hack is actually going to be amazing for those of you with puppies, but it is not exclusively a puppy activity. Kim, take it away.
Carl hack.
The
Carl?
what hack?
Carl? Who's Carl, right? Carl is the name that one of my former employees gave a life-size stuffed dog that we had in our behavior center that we used to use for evaluating other dogs with like dog aggression problems and stuff like that. Well, we noticed all the young dogs and puppies kept going over there and playing with Carl and knocking him over and wrestling with him and ambushing him and things like that. And so instead of like, chewing on the family members, they were actually chewing on Carl. If we sent Carl home for the weekend with them, they'd come back reporting, we've not had any biting puppy issues. He's not been stealing things as much. He's just been having a blast with Carl, his new best friend. So those witching hours in the morning when you're getting the kids ready for school, or at night when you're trying to cook dinner and the dog's driving you crazy, you've been gone all day, Carl can save the day. So you guys can look up these life-size stuffed dogs. There's a company called Melissa and Doug. They make the Husky's my favorite. He's on sale a lot on Amazon too. But this is a wonderful, easy hack. Yes, he will get gutted. Yes, he will get destroyed. Yes, you need to make sure you're watching to make sure that the eyes and the nose don't get ripped off and cause a dog obstruction that's going to send you to the vet. But for a nice supervised period of time, you won't believe how much bang for your buck you get for your dog's relief, where they get to go through all these natural behaviors and play in ways that are essential for their development and their cognitive skills and their emotional regulation skills. I just can't say enough great things about the Carl hack.
I was going to ding you, but we're running out of time. So you're not going to get dung on this one. Get a call. They are game changing, especially if you have like piranha puppy. If you have kids and they are the focus of your dog's teeth. Oh my God, it's such a game changer, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up with our post-it pivot. This is how we are going to end every single show. You have heard a lot of stuff today. We have covered a lot of ground, and likely there was something that piqued your interest or a little light bulb went off. And we would love you to take a post-it note and write on the post-it note one little change that you would like to make for you and your dog, or your family and your dog, that could actually make a really big difference. It could be go and buy a car. It could be go and play with your dog, or sign up for the Gun Dog Fun Dog training that you were going to do, or rent a field. Any of those things. Stick it on the post-it note. Stick the post-it note on the fridge. And we want to hear about all the changes that that's making in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we did it.
Yes.
High five! Best
Episode
episode
1.
in the bag.
High
Yay! So, if today's episode has made you laugh or nod along or breathe a little bit easier, then why not share it with somebody else that might need that feeling too? And if you liked it, remember to subscribe or leave us a voicemail, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear what you guys have going on in your homes with your dogs.
Yes, messy moments, burning questions, and we will see you next time. Until then, remember, your dog is not broken.
And neither are you.